Discerning Hearts presents How to Pray, a Practical Guide to the Spiritual Life by David Torkington. Chapter 4. Pray, do not babble. When you pray, do not babble as pagans do, for they think by using many words they will make themselves heard. Matthew 6, verse 7.
If we have never seriously prayed to God before, except when we wanted something out of Him, it is understandably difficult to get started. Inevitably, our first attempts at entering into some sort of conversation with Him can seem to be rather cold and more like a monologue than anything else. However, that will all change in time if we are only prepared to keep at it. The key word is perseverance. Let this word be branded on your hearts, on your heart and mind. If we can only do our part, then God will do His part. That I promise you. One of our main problems is that we become so lost for words, and before we know what's happening, we find our minds deluged with 1,001 distractions, too many to cope with. That's why it is important to aim at being as simple and straightforward as possible in the words we use. Remember, Jesus said that God is our Father, even our loving Dad. That's why He told us to call Him Abba, because that's what the word Abba means in Aramaic, the language that Jesus used in His time, just as the Arabs still use it today. That is why abbots are called abbots, because, like loving fathers, they are called to lovingly lead their communities to the love of God through prayer. There's no need to speak to God in fancy phrases or highfalutin language. You know the sort of thing I mean. O God, we beseech Thee in Thy infinite goodness, vouchsafe to Thy humble servant. Remember, Jesus criticized the Pharisees severely for doing this sort of thing. That's why He said to His disciples, when you pray, do not babble as pagans do, for they think that by using many words, they will make themselves heard. We ought to use our own words whenever possible. Naturally, this may be difficult to begin with. If it is, we can always start by using someone else's words, their prayers, gradually transposing them into our own as they become part of us. That is why I've included a number of prayers that you can use to begin with at the end of this book. However, and it is important to realize that we should never lose sight of the ideal, which is to be rid of them as soon as possible, as soon as we are able to use our own words. One thing is absolutely necessary from the start, and that is to be completely honest with God. Nothing short of total frankness is called for when we start to pray. Don't forget that God knows us through and through, even before we open our mouths. We might be able to soft soap other people, but we can't fool God. We can't soft soap Him. So I try. If you feel like a dehydrated prune, then say so. If you would rather be sitting in front of the television or surfing the net, admit it. And if you would sooner be reading the paper or a fast-moving thriller or Facebook, why pretend you would not? Words are not so difficult to find in prayer if we only try to speak simply and honestly, and are prepared to admit exactly how we feel from the start. Honesty is the best policy in prayer, as in everything else.
You've been listening to David Torkington and How to Pray, a Practical Guide to the Spiritual Life. For more episodes in this series, visit discerninghearts.com or you can find it in our free Discerning Hearts app or on many other streaming platforms.